Hi everybody, these are the biscuits that we're going to be showing you how to make. We're just doing a taste test because it's a little bit different than the last time we made them, so bottoms up. This is really good. Mild eggnog flavor, but not overpowering at all. So good! You need to eat it all the time.
So, do you highly recommend?
Very much so.
5-star?
5-star. Especially if you're an eggnog lover like we are.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, you're gonna love these. And then, hopefully, maybe we could try an eggnog recipe.
Let's do that.
Let's do that too.
All right. Welcome to Garden for Cheap, everybody. I know it's been a country minute since I made a video, but me and my daughter was having breakfast the other day, and we were low on milk because, you know, little man needs the milk for his bottles. So we decided to substitute milk for eggnog. And when I Googled it, you know, because Google everything. When I did, they popped up some recipes, and I read the comments, and everybody said that they were really good. So I figured, okay, we'll try it. Well, when I went back to watch to see if anybody had done videos, all I could find was eggnog cookies, because apparently England calls cookies biscuits. So I decided to do a video because these were amazing, to say the least. So that's what we're doing today. We're making eggnog biscuits. And we're going to I use all-purpose flour. And I use 2 cups, and I always sift my flour because it makes the biscuits light, fluffy, and airy. Mm-hmm. And I sift it 1 cup at a time because my little sifter is tiny. So is my bowl. But you just take it and pat it like so. And it's sifty. And boy, is it hot in here. And I haven't even started preheating the oven yet. I think it's only 78 in here. Yeah. And I always try to... It's not an exact science, but it's close. It doesn't have to be perfect. Close enough for government work.
Exactly. And I always take a little bit extra flour for the board. Sometimes, depending on your area, location, how much humidity is in the air is how much liquid you're going to need. Now, when I first did this recipe, I just replaced the exact amount of eggnog or milk to eggnog as the recipe called for, which was 3/4 a cup. And they were wet. I had to add a lot more flour. All right, and let me grab that recipe since you have my phone. I actually wrote it down, which I normally never do, but I did. Alright, 1 tablespoon of baking powder.
Got these nifty new measuring cups the other day.
Yes. Now, the magnets are kind of weak on the cups because the cups are so much heavier. But what I did is I went to Home Depot and I bought a pack of these magnets.
And a strip of metal.
Well, the strip of metal I got from a friend.
Yeah.
But I did buy the brackets, and I screwed the brackets into the metal, then the bracket into the wall. But
hey, they work.
But then I got these magnets and put on there to make it stronger so it doesn't fall. Because that's 1.5 cups, and it didn't want to hang up there. But now it does. So we have a tablespoon of baking powder, which is my tablespoon. The little measuring spoons seem to hold up fairly well. Which, if they didn't, it would be fine because I just go back and get another pack because they were only $5.98.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we need a tablespoon of sugar, which is right here. And I kind of spread it around. I will whisk it together before I stick the butter in the wet stuff. A teaspoon of salt, which Technically, I don't have to do because my my butter is salted, but I still do.
I didn't know you use regular salt.
I do because that Himalayan salt tends to be a tad bit saltier.
Because it's chunkier, I think.
Yeah, and you know, I don't want my biscuits.
That is the kind of salt I use in the brownies, though, because there's not a lot of salt in it at all.
Well, for other cooking things, and if my butter wasn't salted, then maybe. But since my butter is salted, I don't use the Himalayan. You can use kosher salt. Any salt will work. All right, where is my whisk? I whisk it together just to kind of incorporate the baking powder and the sugar and the salt. Sugar helps it rise. Salt keeps it from rising too much. That's why you put more sugar than salt. Alright. One of the hardest things people have about biscuits is them being too tough. Well, if you watch any video, they'll tell you to cut in the lard, the butter, whatever fat you're using, and to work the dough as little as possible. Overworking the dough is what makes them like hockey pucks. So what I did is, it takes 6 tablespoons of butter. So I took it, pre-cut it into little bitty pieces, and froze it, or stuck it in the freezer. Well, it's not frozen, but it's been in there for a good 20 minutes, maybe 30. And then I work it in until it's like, I don't know, gritty feeling, because the flour and the butter kind of bond together. But you don't want to work it too long because the heat from your hands will melt the butter. But that's kind of what it looks like. Do you have to do that? No, you don't. You can take your butter, freeze it, and then use a cheese grater. And I've done that method. I just didn't care for it for some reason. Sometimes I just take the cold butter, cut it up, and put it in there and do it as quick as possible to try not to melt it and hope for the best. And most of the time that works. But today, I actually stuck it back in the freezer since I knew I was going to do this to begin with. But what it is, you take it and you kind of break it up, and you want it to be crumbly, like little bitty rocks. Because what that'll do is when you put the dough and form it, and then you put it in the oven, those pieces of frozen butter will melt and create air pockets. And that's what causes fluffy, one of the things that help cause fluffy biscuits. You don't want to work it in there too much, but the bigger pieces you kind of want to break in there. You can use one of those pastry cutters. There's all kinds of hacks and tricks, but that's how I do mine. I just kind of bring it in there and just kind of squeeze it and make pebbles, and I even bust them between my fingers. But you don't want to do it too long because your heat of your hand will start melting the butter to where you don't have that. And I also think it helps incorporate the rest of the baking powder and the sugar and salt, because your hands are in there. You want to make sure your hands are clean anytime you're making bread. Of course, that goes without saying, I would hope. But once you have it in there, like so, and it just looks crumbly, you know. I can't even think of the word that would use to describe it. But you're basically cutting the butter into the flour, is the technical jargon. But, I don't know, I think that's good enough. Do you see how crumbly it is? Can you think of a word to describe it, Megan?
Chalky? Gritty?
Gritty. That would be good. Big grits, but gritty.
Pebbly.
Pebbly. I don't know if that's a word, but we'll go with it. We'll run with that one. But yeah. Alright. Now, the other day when I used 3/4 cup of milk, it came out too wet.
Oh, eggnog.
Yeah. No, yeah. Eggnog. So what I'm going to do today is I went back and looked at a recipe, and it called for 1/3 cup for every cup of flour. Well, since we use 2 cups of flour,
That'd be 2/3 a cup.
That'd be 2/3 a cup. So we're gonna try to do 2/3 a cup, and if it's too dry, then I'll add more. But you see how thick that is?
Oh yeah.
Get my handy dandy little spatula.
And all the extra yolks in the eggnog really do add a sponginess to the biscuits.
Yes.
And they're so good.
Now at this point, I try not to mix it with my hands just yet. I don't want to put that away just yet. And let's turn on our oven now to start preheating it. I guess I could have done that sooner. I do about 350. But right now I'm going to just stir it with the spatula. And that looks like that's going to be too dry. So what's 2/3 minus 3/4, Megan? 1/3?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, look at us mathing this early in the morning.
It's close enough.
Yeah, close enough.
Close enough.
I don't know, maybe it won't be.
It smells good.
Yes.
But I'm biased. I love eggnog.
Yeah, if you don't like eggnog, you might not want to try this. Just a thought.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
going to be the milk butter for later when I butter the tops.
Yeah, if you're not a fan of eggnog, you won't be a fan of these biscuits because it does have the smell of eggnog and a mild eggnog flavor. But not, like, so noticeable that you can't eat it with, like, sausage and gravy because that's what we did, and they were delicious.
Yeah, it's a little too dry. I don't think I need a whole lot more.
Maybe just a fourth, because a fourth is smaller than a third.
Okay, so we'll do a fourth. If this cup has a fourth. And it does, yay. New measuring cup, people.
Woo!
It came with the...
With those set. That set up there.
Yep. And since my hands are already nasty, well, not nasty, but biscuity.
Biscuity.
Yep.
That looks about right.
Yep. And I was going to get it mixed in and incorporated.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little sticky. Gotta love biscuit making.
I know, right? Prep your board or your counter, whatever you like to roll out your bread on.
I prefer my board. It's easier to clean up.
And
Even though I did see a lady use those cooking sheets,
mm-hmm.
which I thought was awesome. And a lot of people say do not use a rolling pin. Because like I said, you don't want to overwork it. I know a lot of people will fold it like a bunch of times. I think I say a bunch, like 6 or 5 to 7 times. They'll keep folding it to create those layers. And you can. I just don't really find it that necessary.
You can get the fluffy biscuits without them.
Yeah.
Now, if you want them to be flaky, yeah, that's what you do. But
Yeah.
we're not going for flake. We're going for fluff.
Kind of think of like little cakes. That's kind of what it reminded me of. And I'll just flatten it.
To about what thickness do you think? An inch?
1/2 inch.
1/2 inch thickness?
Yeah. 1/2 inch thickness is about what you want to go for. Now the recipe says you get about 8 to 10 biscuits. I think they make theirs a little taller. Because I'm tired of it sticking in my hand right there. And you see the little chunks of biscuit or butter in there.
Yep, you sure can.
Let me wash my hands real quick.
Because it's time to cut the biscuits.
Where's my little handy dandy towel? Because I want my hands dry. Now when I cook my biscuits, I make them in my cast iron pan. And I like to heat up the butter that's going to go on top of them. And here. Because it does, it's like a, what do you call it, Megan? A twofer?
Twofer.
Oh. And this is the butter we use.
Salted sweet cream butter.
Yep.
We go through a lot of it.
Yeah. And I'm only going to take about maybe 3 tablespoons. That might be a little more than I need, but I don't think you can ever have too much butter. Just saying.
I mean, we live in the South. You can never have too much butter.
Yeah, wasn't that holiday?
Yeah.
Yeah. The love of butter.
Mm-hmm.
And see, what I'll do is I'll heat it up in here. And then I will pour it into this glass container. And then when I pull the biscuits out when they're done cooking, I'll brush the tops with butter. So that's how I do that. You can microwave it. I used to do that, but when I cook in my cast iron anyway, and I have to grease the pan anyway, well, I guess I don't have to, but it makes sense to do that. If you season your cast iron right, usually it doesn't stick, but I'd rather be safe than sorry and not have my biscuits stick to it. Or my cornbread, which was amazing last night.
Yes, it was.
We'll have to do that recipe too.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a cup of cornmeal, a cup of flour, and I sift both of those in a whole stick of butter. And I melt that, 2 eggs, baking powder, baking soda, salt, sugar.
It's good.
Yeah.
We had it with our beef stew last night.
Yeah, or kind of barbecue.
Yeah, it's like a barbecue beef stew, but it's oh my god, so good.
I had smoked the meat that went into the barbecue.
And the potatoes.
And the potatoes. I could have done the vegetables as well, but that was kind of overkill.
Yeah,
I didn't want it being too smoky.
Yeah, but I'm glad you didn't, because I think that would have made it too smoky. But I loved the potatoes.
And before anybody freaks out, I'm just barely touching the pan with a knife.
It's not their skillet anyway.
That's true, but still, a lot of people, that's like sticking a cast iron in a dishwasher. You just don't. But I have a very light touch when need be.
When need be.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not so light, but if I need to use delicacy, I can. I'm pretty talented in that department.
If you say so.
I have a firm hand when I need a firm hand. I need a gentle hand. I have a gentle hand. Let's see. I usually kind of wait, but, you know. And you want to get as close to these as possible.
So you get the maximum amount of
biscuits without overworking the dough.
Yep. And then with the leftover dough, you can make another biscuit.
Oh, you can make a couple more biscuits. I think that's sticking to the pan. So I'll get my little bread dimaflachi thing and show you what you do when that happens. That's all the goodness right there.
Mm-hmm. Liquid gold. Literally.
Alright, now the pan's greased.
Mm-hmm.
And I have butter to put on top of the biscuits when I'm done. You don't need this. I just prefer it. Because, you know, it has flour on the bottom. It's just, it didn't quite coat everything. I know that looks thin, but it will rise. And you want them, I usually make mine almost touch, if not touching. Because the closer they are together, the more they will rise. I guess I can turn that off. Or we're going to have crispy bottom biscuits. Of course, there ain't nothing wrong with that either.
No. You just don't want them too crispy.
I always turn over and look and make sure it's just not a glob of flour. Because, you know, that would be nasty. Like that right there.
Mm-hmm.
I always brush that around. Either brush it off or brush, you know.
Yep, distribute it.
Yes, distribute it. That's a good word. If you don't have a cookie cutter, biscuit cutter, whatever, you can use a glass. I have done that. Anything the size, approximately biscuit size, like a wine glass. Just put a little flour in the glass. That works. And if you don't have that, well, worst case scenario, make a square biscuit. Just cut that sucker. I have done that too.
I was going to say you could probably take a Coke bottle or a Dr. Pepper bottle and cut the top off of it.
Yeah, you could do that too. I don't know. It had to be a pretty strong plastic bottle because...
No, that's why I was saying like the soda bottles. Because the body of them are pretty strong.
Yeah, see, that was sticking. Not enough flour on them.
Pat, 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 pat.
Well, you know, not quite a perfectionist, but... Try not to mix it too much, but I do want it incorporated.
So you don't have a pocket of flour somewhere?
Yep. This is why I leave extra flour in my cup.
Mm-hmm.
So I can do that as I go. Try to do it about the same thickness. Even though I probably only have room for 2 more biscuits in there. That's the way it's supposed to come out. This one. Usually I just make that into a biscuit, but that's kind of big, so I probably won't do that this time. Remember the other day we had that one really kind of sort of big biscuit compared to the rest of them?
Yeah.
That's why. It was the leftover dough.
Yeah. It was still good though. I took that one.
Yeah. I think you usually do. It's kind of like your favorite one, I think.
Yeah, I like my biscuits extra big.
I like my biscuits like I like my men. Extra big, soft, and fluffy. It's kind of how I do my hamburger patties.
Mm.
That's actually going to cook that way. I don't know how we're going to get this sucker in there. But where there is a will,
There is a way. Look at that.
we need a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. See?
And they will rise. That's making it. At least they did the other day.
Yep. Alrighty.
And I think it's 25 minutes. So we will be right back with biscuits.
Here we go.
Alright. Alright, it's been about 12 to 15 minutes, give or take. We do have an oven directly from Hades, so ours gets a little hotter than most. I cooked it at 350. I kind of halfway preheated, but not quite. So we gave them a look, and they look to be done, so we're pulling them out.
And most biscuit recipes will tell you about 10 to 12 minutes for biscuits.
It really varies on your oven.
It does. Look at those biscuits.
And my butter's trying to dry on me.
You mean harden?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, it'll melt again.
Yeah, it's melting as I'm putting it on the biscuit. Sometimes I will put butter on them and then stick them back in the oven. Sometimes I don't. It just depends on how hungry my crowd is and how long it's taking.
I'm excited about the big one.
All right. Let me grab some fine china here.
Fine china, you mean paper plate.
Yeah, you know, every Southerners fine china.
Yep.
There's one in particular. I want that one. It just, I don't know. It's calling out to me.
It's calling
See how
out.
that did not stick?
Yep. It doesn't smell quite as
Eggnoggy.
eggnoggy as it did yesterday. Not yesterday. The
See
day
how
before.
fluffy that is?
Look at that. Careful, Mom.
Yeah, before I hit the pan. And
Spongy.
spongy. But this is the recipe.
That big one's mine.
Yes, ma'am. I got it. The big one is yours. I want that one.
Okay.
They don't have the eggnog taste like you think. They do have the slight smell of it, but
I think it's mostly the spices that's in the eggnog that kind of shows through.
probably.
But don't they look delicious? And these are perfect for the holidays, especially since, most people don't cook their own.
That will be our thumbnail, maybe. Hopefully.
Oh, that's pretty. Yeah.
Is there a way to take a picture? I think there is in the corner of that.
Is there? Oh, yeah, there is. Perfect.
Awesome. And there we go. And that, my friends, is how you make eggnog biscuits. Try them. They're yummy. But throw your diet out the window because I'm sure it's high in calories. But it's great with biscuits and gravy, sausage gravy. Most excellent with strawberry jam or jelly. I highly recommend them. So if you, we'll leave the recipe in the description, but I'm going to be editing this on my phone, so I'll probably have to pin it in a comment or something until I can get to my PC and do it properly. But I will leave the recipe for you. Anyhow, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you on the next one. God bless and peace.